Okay, welcome back again to episode 4. It's like it's a thing now. It's not just a hobby. After dinner conversation. It's only been 4 episodes. After dinner conversation, short stories for long conversations. After dinner conversations, a website of a growing collection of short stories across genres, meant to draw out deeper conversations like the one we're having today. Yeah. I am your co-host Kolby, here with co-hosts Jeremy and Ashley. And we are at the
Gattara,
thank you,
Cat
for our
Cafe.
4th week in a row.
Come visit. It's in Tempe, Arizona.
We have Tempe with a very large cat that's freaking out over whatever's in that thing.
Cat's up for adoption. This is a big, big lover boy.
Yeah, this would be a good cat to adopt, especially if you needed some home protection, because I feel like that cat could take out a criminal.
That cat would just go up to him and just lay on him. I got him.
Seriously, that's like a 15-pound cat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but get that cat some catnip. Look at him. He turns into a butterball.
So the story that we're discussing today is This I Do For You by Margaret Karmazin, maybe? Karmazin? Yeah. It's available on Amazon, Apple, every place that you can get ebooks. And you can download it to your e-reader, tablet, computer, whatever else. You should ideally read it before you've listened to the story.
Especially this one. There's a spoiler alerts that we're going to be talking about.
Oh,
so
yeah. So we're totally going to spoil the story when we talk
hit
about
pause on this, go read it, then hit unpause, and then watch.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because this is one where once you've heard this, you've kind of ruined it. So I forget who's doing. Ashley, do you want to do the
All right.
the what happened?
What happened? Dun, dun, dun. So there is the main character, Adit, who is it's basically her life story. She's growing up, but she's kept indoors in a special room.
I totally thought it was a guy. Do you think it's a girl?
Yeah, I thought it was. Oh,
I have no
idea. I thought it was a.
And there's a "You're my favorite brother" comment.
Maybe because you're a woman,
Oh,
I
assumed it was a
girl.
girl. Oh, okay.
To begin with, 2 until.
To the very okay.
Right,
So
so
technically, it's a he, she, it,
Yeah, sure.
them. Anyway, kept indoors, kept being fed. Not allowed outside, not allowed to learn about the outside world.
To point out, it's also an alien culture.
Correct.
These are not people. This is.
You never really get what they are, right?
They are hatched, and they live in underground domes, 4 legs.
Almost like giant ants, but not ants.
The only
Kind of how I got it.
just sort of a fictional thing.
the only thing that we know is that her father, who's no longer around, was also large, and she's also pretty darn big.
Full figured.
Full figure.
Rubenesque.
Yes, gosh, yeah, she's curvy, or he's curvy. Either
curvy.
it is curvy. Either way, the story progresses until finally the main character is revealed that their entire life's purpose is to feed the community in times of famine. And
Like
sure
with their
enough,
bodies.
with their bodies, and which sure enough, that time has come.
And just to be clear, not like in the I'm going to milk you sort of way. In the
Like we will eat you.
Yeah, in the bullet to the back of the head, grind you up, and you're now like food mullet.
Now, keep in mind, this person has been kept watching television, basically has a servant, no outside communication, but just gets fed a bunch of food.
All the time.
All the time.
Eventually-
Like, living the dream.
Yeah, until they get killed and being fed to everyone during a time of starvation.
But the point is, this character doesn't know why it's been kept. The mother doesn't tell.
That's right. It's all
Why
a big
kept
secret.
inside. Siblings are taken away. They no longer visit.
Eats and watches TV.
Eats and watches TV, or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, that leads us to our ethical dilemma of the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah, is this person a hero?
Is this person a hero
I'm a hard no.
for helping to save the community? Not a hero.
I'll tell you why. So let's say that I just am like, hey, I'm gonna cross the street because I need to go to work, and in the way of crossing the street, I unknowingly set off a chain of events that saves humanity. But
So you're turning this into a trolley problem.
But no, everything's a trolley problem. But all I was doing was just doing what I do. Like, I feel like in order to be a hero, you need a couple of things. You need, I think, fear, and I think you need to act in the face of that fear, right? So if I get in a fight with like a toddler, I'm not a hero because I'm not afraid and I knew I was going to win.
You're not going to win.
That's true. I mean, if it was a scrappy toddler, I'm definitely not going to win. But if let's say you go skydiving to save the world, but you like skydiving, you're not a hero. If I'm terrified of heights and I go skydiving to save the world, I'm a hero because I've done something, I've sacrificed some fear or something because intentionally with intent, because I know there's a greater good for it. And that's why I don't think this person's a hero, because they never even, until they got like clubbed in the back of the head, they never even knew their purpose.
So that's the interesting thing I came away with this story. And I don't know if this was the intention, but if you look at like tribal cultures, basically smaller cultures that live in villages, everybody knows each other.
Sure.
There's a lot more ritual around death. You know, the societies grieve in a different fashion, and there are rituals around that and community involvement. And what I get from this story is a very similar, that once you modernize into larger communities, or at least what we have done, is we push death to the background and nobody talks about it, and it's this taboo for your culture. And so that has happened in this society, where in the past, when it was a more tribal community, this was something that the person was raised to do, and they knew the entire time that this was their purpose. But in this story, that has been taken from them. They're not told what they're doing.
There's no choice.
There's no choice. And maybe there probably would not have been a choice in the past. There may have been, but it may still have been, you've been selected, this is what you're going to be raised for. But this is a position of honor. In this story, it's not a position of honor. The family that has to take care of her is ashamed, and you know, it's a burden on the family. It's not an honor. And that's a change to their society and how their society deals with death. At least this was the interesting subtext to this, in how our society has changed in the same way. And so, because it's really, the honorific is the mayor comes by at the end and says, hey, you're going to save everybody. Good job.
Take a picture with the person before they die.
How about even just the original selection criteria? It's, you were born big. You were a big baby.
You're a big baby.
That
Dad is a big dude.
That is literally it. It's this character and what, 3 others? That were deemed big. And did the mother even have any say over that? Because now keep in mind, her father was large and didn't get selected, so there might have been enough larger babies that didn't need to be selected.
Well, and that was a question that's raised too, is would my father have allowed this to happen?
Exactly.
Here's what I think would have made the character a hero. If after they found out their purpose, like the very end of the story, if they'd have been like, and we're going to have to kill and eat you so everyone else can live. If the character had just said, okay, that's all they would have had to have done to be a hero in my mind, right? As opposed to not having any choice in the matter. Like even if you didn't choose to walk down that path, if you choose the last moment, like you're like, I'm ready. Like that's all they would have had to have said to be like, yep, hero.
Now I'd like to know why. Again, why did they choose to make this like hide her purpose? Again, it's a shameful thing. When in reality, it's like without that, you all would be dead. Like you think they would have flipped a switch in the community-wise to be like, yo, this person's going to be the greatest thing ever. Like we will not live without it.
I think that would completely change the story if there were more, if it were a position of honor. And there was a bunch of rituals and a bunch of meaningful things around this, so that the person knows.
As opposed to sort of a shameful secret.
Or something we're not even going to tell you about till the last minute.
And my only thing with the way that you talked about heroes was there has to be some fear and then them overcoming that fear. What about those people that aren't afraid to go to join the army, that aren't afraid to be sent over to Iraq? Like they know that's what they were meant to do. Like they're not afraid to die. Are they still considered a hero?
But I think, yes. I think for me, yes. Because I think when you join the military, like maybe you're doing it because, you know, you want to get a free college education, or maybe to get out of a bad situation or whatever. I think, and even if you're, you know, if you're not on the front lines, even if you're an accountant in the military or whatever, like when you sign up, you have at some point said, I know that I am putting myself potentially in harm's way. I might not be, but I might be. And I understand I'm getting like free college education out of it, but I still I choose. And I think if it turns out that you're doing it for the free college education, or you end up, you know, whatever, being an accountant for the Air Force, like you might not have been an accountant for the Air Force. You might not have ended up. You know, I think it's that decision is the thing.
Yeah, that's what
The
I had.
decision is part of it.
My whole thing is if she's a hero, and my main point was that the overcoming the fear, and it was not by choice. It wasn't her decision to put herself in that situation. So
Absolutely not.
I think it's a choice thing, not necessarily an overcoming a fear, having a fear to begin with. It's sacrifice. It's your choice to give of yourself for something greater.
So does that mean every breastfeeding mother is a hero?
They are sustaining life.
Right. So it's kind of the same.
They're kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Moms
I
are
don't disagree with
awesome.
that. I don't want to get in trouble with my mom. So let me ask this then. Do you think that there's any bad guys in this story?
Ooh.
No, not directly.
Not even the mom or the
society. It's a cultural problem.
Exactly.
It's not an individual, you know, this is a bad person for...
So anything that perpetuates the race, whatever that race may be, is not a bad thing. Is a necessary evil? I don't know if I can buy that,
No,
man.
I think it's societal constructs
Next
as a
thing
whole.
you know, you're killing off old ladies with cancer to make space.
The thing is, okay, so say the mom doesn't follow the rules and feeds the kid to be huge, like she's supposed to, right? Are the ramifications against her? So is she just following the laws? Like, is she a bad person for following the laws? So I think it goes back to being more communal of an issue. Their social constructs.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that the mom did anything bad by not telling the kid, not that the butler did anything bad by not telling the kid. You know, everyone kept it from a secret. I don't think they're bad. They were just following their social construct. Now, is their social construct bad?
But that's a cultural sort of thing.
It's
you're
a
putting
cultural,
on it, right?
exactly. Which it is a very cultural thing.
Yeah. So I'm going to take the other side on it. I think there is a bad person in this. Maybe I'm just like throwing stones, but I think the main character, the one who becomes heavy and dies, I think is a bad character, is a bad person. And I'll tell you why. The mom, you can be like, well, maybe it's a cultural thing. Maybe she didn't have a choice. Maybe it's an honor. Maybe it's a selection process. Even the society, like I feel like you're perpetuating your race. Like surely you must make some hard choices. But for the main character, like how do you go your whole life and not do anything to seemingly ask, like, why is everyone feeding me? Why don't I get to leave the house? Why do you take no sort of
personal responsibility?
Yeah, personal responsibility for like being different in a way that you don't understand.
To, I guess, in her defense, the
agency. That's the word I'm thinking of.
Agency, sure. But I feel like by the time in the story that she is asking questions, she's no longer able to walk or really.
Yeah.
You know, she's sort of stuck in this position. She's been
because it's from the time the kid's an infant, so they wouldn't know any different anyway. Sorry, you can't hold like a toddler accountable. That's a good point.
I'm going to disagree. She asked questions from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Mother, where does our money come from?
Oh, yeah.
Why is father gone? Why don't the siblings come and visit anymore? Maybe not asking the right questions, but continually questioning.
Yeah.
So
continually questioning the whole.
So do you think there is some culpability then in the
mom's
in the
certainly
person? In the mom for not giving better answers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think
how do you handle that? How do you handle it? The social pressure to lie to your child, like every single parent lies to their kid about like Santa Claus.
What?
Oh, busted! Spoiler alert! Oh man, you know, I know. So, but like you have to lie to this kid, and has to tell this terrible, terrible lie. Maybe she just didn't know. Sorry, the cat just went flying off the table. Full paws in the air.
I also think that creates a separation though between mother and child.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Like
well, keep in mind
if you're the mother who knows that you might have to kill your kid someday, and you don't tell them. How do you ever have a really great conversation with them?
Well, again, is she ashamed of the kid?
Yeah.
Remember, you don't talk about it. You don't anything. You don't even want to be around. Like later on, it sounds like the mother isn't even around anymore. It's just the butler for most of the part.
Yeah.
You know.
So you think the mom's the rougher one in this story?
The mother could have taken a more active role.
Do you think that the mother had an obligation to like
society.
on the slide to be like, hey kid, so I got to do it this way towards the camera. Hey kid, like
could have gone on a hunger strike if you told her.
If you quit eating and make a run for it, you might live.
No,
do you think you have the obligation to provide the child enough information to create choice?
Yeah, but then here comes the government. Why is the chosen one down 18 pounds?
Right.
Like, why are they on a hunger strike?
Yeah.
What did you tell them? And then,
But honestly, I think you have an obligation to do that anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like even though it affects the future of the culture and the future of the ability to the group to go through a famine, I think you have to provide.
it's not about going. It's not going through a famine. This is life or death.
Yeah,
If these people don't gain the weight, if these select 4, the whole society is dead.
Right.
But I think,
There is no, maybe we'll survive. No,
No,
they
they're all
are
dead.
dead.
I agree.
So,
But so I'm struggling with this one more.
Yeah.
I think that you have to give someone that choice. And if they choose,
what if nobody chooses?
then everyone dies. I think that's what you have to do. I think you have to give people choice because for me, I'm not saying for everyone, I think the rights of an individual are paramount to the rights of the group. They're higher than the rights of the group, and that you would hope that the individual would have enough personal responsibility to understand their obligation to the group.
I'm going to bracket up for 2 points. 1, what if it's only the people that are born fat have whatever it is that allows them to gain so much weight?
Thing, yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Secondly, you're at they have to start at a young age. They have to start eating at such a young age before they can make choices.
Yes and no.
Just throwing that out
you
there.
could just have more of them.
Right.
That once they
You got like
decide,
a dozen people instead of 3.
Exactly. And at some point, like, you have to be, first you're selected, you will have the option when you're older to really do this for the community. But it has to be a choice.
So I mean,
But what if you have to start the process when they're so young?
Yeah,
like
but,
say all of a sudden you're
like
all of a
there's some
sudden you're
enzyme or
18 and they're like you have to gain
something.
100 pounds in like 5 days. It's like that's not going to happen there, bro.
I could do it
and
at
again,
45 for
again,
sure.
you're making the assumption that there are enough
But again,
people born that meet
Right.
the criteria that can start putting on that weight
But here's
super
the
fast.
thing I struggle with though about that. So it's one thing to say, and this makes a really clear black and white example, like somebody must do this or we all die, right? And so therefore the rights of the individual are not as important as the rights of the community.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, why don't you say that same thing with like high fructose corn syrup and be like, look, we as a society, we're not all gonna die, but we're all gonna be worse. And so we want to take your right away as an individual because we want the society to have lower
healthier.
medical costs, to be healthier, to not have to like make seats bigger on airplanes or whatever. Like I don't, like in this case, it's a simple yes and no. But I think once you've made that distinction, you can start lowering the bar to like all the way down to like, look, we'd really rather you didn't have e-cigarettes, right?
Exactly.
I don't.
But is everything a slippery slope?
Right. I mean, I know that's like a total easy way to go. Like the slippery slope argument's always the easy one, but I think that just means maybe the civilization dies. Like, which is sad because, like that's the way it goes, but I don't know. That's just for me. I'm not saying it's like the definitive answer.
Right. But without knowing whether there's an age factor, there's a better way to do this. Make it a more honorable thing. Everybody's included.
Yeah.
You can start this at a later age. Even if there is an initial weight requirement, you can still, allow those people that choice.
Yeah.
So here's what I think would make it a harder question, is if there was something about the way your body developed.
Right, and that's the question we don't know. Again, if you have to start early.
Right, if you don't start within the first 6 months of life, like you can't do it.
Do this.
Well, that
and then once you start it, you can't undo it, right? Like some enzyme comes on so that you store fat in a different way.
There's still a better way to do that. If you still
then whose
have
decision
to do
is it?
that.
Is it the mother?
So you're
Is it the
It's
parent?
still not their decision, but you can approach it in a different way that makes them more honored and makes them understand what the decision is.
You get a statue before you get killed. Like, look, you've got this statue. By the way, here's the baseball bat.
Right.
Like make them seem like kings. Like you are the chosen one. You are all great and all worthy, and
Joe versus the volcano.
There is still, you're not just isolated your entire life until we need you.
I think that's also the cruelty of it too, right?
That's really the cruelty of this, is they're not included in the society, and they need to be included in the society in a way that is beneficial to them, so that once they do have to sacrifice, that they understand what it's for and they're okay with it.
Yeah.
There's a way to do that.
What if they opt out though? What if they're like, nope? Are you okay with the society then just dying off because everyone's like, look, I love everyone, but I love me
But
better?
that's a different question. If you first you get the
So you get a choice
until you don't. But if you're like, no, you can't opt out of this. This is your role.
Yeah.
It was chosen for you, but here are the advantages.
Think of like the King of England. Like it's like Prince Charles. He's gonna have to take it. He can give it up.
I mean,
He
there are a
knows
lot
it's
of
a big
advantages
no-no,
to
and then
being
Yeah.
in
This
that
tree
position.
this person never went hungry their whole life.
Yeah.
They never went without their whole life.
yeah.
They went without contact and love and
Now, what if this was only
Understand.
temporary? Like they say they're looking for other solutions. The brothers working in the scientific community, they're like, listen, this is a great honor that you can do this for us. And trust me, we're not trying to do this forever. Is it permissible for a small period of time?
I'm more okay with that, actually.
yeah, that
Yeah?
if they're continuing to look
With
for
looking
other
for,
avenues.
so you would be okay
Yeah.
with your kid
And I
getting
can't-
eaten
And I can't
as
tell
long
you
as they're
why.
looking for alternatives. Maybe they never find an
I know,
alternative.
and it's a totally, like that's totally unfair flip-flop that I've done. But
I'm
but
just throwing it out there.
but
I
I
mean,
feel like there are different. It's different if it's like, look, this is a one-time problem. We have a one-time solution. We're coming up with something different, as opposed to like, this is our culture and it's forever.
what if this has
Yeah.
been going on for decades and decades and decades
No,
and
I think
decades?
this has been going on for centuries.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And again, to me, it feels like the culture used to do something.
It was a
to
more
where
ritualistic.
It
sort of
was more
thing.
ritualistic,
Yeah,
and
now it's
because
medicinal.
of modernization,
Yeah.
and because they've become a complex society, death has been pushed into the background and is no longer, and
Yeah.
it's a taboo item. So you can't talk to these people about what they're doing,
Yeah.
what they're doing for the community.
I want to ask couple of questions on our sheet really quickly. So if you were living in this community, would you eat the person?
So
I
there you
think
go. There's choice.
Because
do you
I think
decide?
you
would.
can choose non-participation. Like
Yeah.
that
You
can
can't
be your silent protest.
Yeah.
Like I'm just going to starve to death.
But again, it's a culture where this has always been done.
Mhm.
So this is
So you'd eat Bob, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be on a drifting raft with you. That's my main goal.
Well,
but
then-
again,
You're telling me you're
going
gonna
back,
eat me.
Going back to last week's story, you're in the cave.
Yeah.
You're part of this culture. This is the norm. So until you step out of that, you're going to just keep looking at the shadows.
Well, this
You're
is
gonna
where
keep
you
doing
get your
this.
option. This is where it comes down to you get your option to eat it or you don't.
I think I would.
That's where you get to decide. I'm going to
Yeah.
die off because that's my personal moral code,
Right,
not
like,
to,
I can-
not to survive.
Right. I can make my choice for me.
Yes.
Yes.
And my choice for me is no. I'm not
Exactly.
faulting you guys for saving the society necessarily, but it's not. I say that until like I can't skip a meal. But I'm saying hypothetically, if I could skip a meal,
Yeah, but
I'm
that's
kind of
helpful
peckish
tool.
right now.
So I'd like to touch on one point. When I
Yeah.
was reading this story, the entire time of seeing this one, since being a child, put into a certain room and being fed and being ignored and like kind of put in their special zone, I was thinking of it as being like the next queen bee, being
Yeah.
the mother ant, being like the queen of the hive. That was my actual interpretation
I'm not
reading
sure
this.
being pregnant all the time is a much better future.
No, but I was thinking, look, doesn't need to move, gets fed, just chills out and watches TV all day. I'm like, man, they're treating this thing like royalty. That was my initial.
I could see it being like a queen
I
bee
was
thing.
like, all of a sudden being like, this is my, and all of a sudden they'll flip it and be like, no, you're gonna get eaten. Like,
Yeah. But right. And I think the difference, maybe the difference again is how it's presented to them and what their knowledge of their life is.
Yeah.
So to not know again is the bigger crime
Yeah.
here.
I'm
Yeah.
curious, will you guys both eat or don't eat?
Oh, eat.
Eat?
on one hand, you got to do what you got to do to get the society to
But
keep
it's your, no,
on
it's your,
living.
It's your choice, though. You don't have to eat if you don't want to. Like the only one who starves is you.
Yeah,
like
I'd be in the scientific community being like, work harder, guys. We
What?
gotta figure out how to.
While you're like snacking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little bits. I would definitely enough to keep me going, but not enough to take advantage of the situation.
I assume nobody's like
I-
feasting on these people.
They say
Like,
it's
a
got enough
starvation
to feed an
situation.
entire.
Right. And so I think they're getting little bits at a time.
Right. It's like
You
the
know, it's-
400 calorie
it's
a day
famine
diet.
food.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's famine food. You're spreading it out.
Yeah.
All right, one last question in our list, and then we can call it quits, I suppose, on this, unless you guys want to talk more. The one I thought was interesting, is it fair to impose cultural norms on goodness and morality on others? Like, is it fair for
I
us
don't-
to tell them, like, you're
No,
wrong?
No.
Yeah, I think absolutely not. You know,
So
that's the prime
So
directive.
I knew that's your answer, which is why I have a follow-up question. So what about like if you go somewhere to another culture in America or in the world, and like they think that prostitution is okay, or they think that theft is okay, or they think that rape is okay, or they think that like do you just go there and just be like, yo, who am I to judge? I think we do judge, and I think we have a right to do that.
We absolutely do judge, and again, it's complex. It depends, because there's a lot of factors behind whatever's going on. And yes, it can be immoral, and it can be immoral in their culture.
Like, what about hitting kids? So let's say you go to some other country, and it's totally okay to just like wail on your kids as part of like, like teaching your kids rules, but not like a little bit, like wailing on your kids. Yeah. Do you jump in and like stop the dad from hitting the kid? Or do you like different culture, different rules?
Yeah. Yes, I think you have to jump in and stop.
But you just said but that's the exact opposite of what you just said.
You come in with the understanding that you need to be respectful of their traditions and their cultural norms.
And in my
you
tradition,
may
we
sit
wail
down.
on kids.
You can sit down and be like, just so you know, just putting it out there.
You could all start.
There's another way you can go about this. It's worked in our community. Maybe give it a try. Maybe not. The choice is yours. But maybe it isn't even maybe it hasn't even like come into their consciousness that there is a different way about going about it.
Like in this story, you're like, hey, you know, there's some pretty fatty foods that would hold you over.
Why
not? Have you ever
Yeah.
seen a Choco Taco? Like, it might...
Do you think anyone derives pleasure of beating their kid? Do you think anyone derives pleasure of eating one of their own society?
But I think from a cultural standpoint, I think like your dad did it, your grandfather did it, you've seen your friends do it.
Right.
It seems to be a pretty effective way to like steer behavior.
There's got to be one kid who's like, yo, I really didn't like this. I'm willing to give anything else a shot because I didn't like getting beaten. I'm sure that kid doesn't like it. But you guys,
okay, I'm just to sort of taunt you all. You don't think it's a little bit hypocritical to be like, yo, this culture's okay, but if I go and see somebody hit their kid, which by the way is not killing their kid,
it's
like I'm going to step. So on the one hand, you're like, leave them alone. And then in the other hand, you're like, I'm going to step in. Like, I don't know how you hold those two ideas simultaneously. I think it's both or neither. You see, you're thinking. That's a good sign.
Yeah, right.
Like you went to India, right?
Yeah.
Let me tell you what. In India, they wail on their kids.
They do.
And you didn't step in and were like, hey.
Well, nobody did that in front of me.
Oh, okay. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think it's
a difficult question.
But I don't think you get to
At
say
some
both.
point,
I don't think you get to say one or the other. I think you get to say both or neither.
Okay. No, that's a fair way to look at it.
I don't know. I'm not picking on you. I'm just saying logical consistency. Sometimes you gotta kill a kid. Apparently, I wouldn't eat him. I wouldn't do it. I would just let myself starve. I think. Of course, again, I've never know that for sure.
So, okay, going off of that, you're okay with buying shoes that you've known that were made by a kid making 10 cents?
I actually am. Yeah.
You're okay with that part, though?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. Because
inhumane conditions of...
Yeah, no, I totally get that. But because there's a larger economic theory there that I buy into.
Oh, okay, so that's a whole nother...
And that is that you start with low-level, menial, repetitive, low-wage jobs, and that culture...
And that improves the whole culture.
Yeah, and that culture works its way up a technological thing until you're eventually building semiconductors, and there's no longer a labor shortage, and that labor shortage means you have to pay more rights, and people unionize, but the first foot in the door is the Nike factory, which I know is a really controversial thing to say, but I think you start with like a labor glut, and you work your way up. In this case, I don't know. I don't even know what our story is for next week. I think it's As You Wish.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think next week...
There's going to be another one. Just
tune
in, hit subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube.
And we'll have a different...
You'll get notified. And
we're going to have a different... you're being replaced, Ashley. Not because you're bad.
No, it's cool.
But yeah, a friend of ours, Jessica, is coming in to guest host, I guess.
Can I still come and play with the cats if we're doing it here?
I think we're going to do it here again probably as well.
Okay, great.
And I think the next story will be As You Wish. I could be wrong. Just check the website or whatever. Right. And As You Wish, I think, it's a story about stuffed animals that have the... Okay, well, you got to do your homework.
It's a good one.
It's a story about stuffed animals that meet a lady who says, I'll fix you all.
Oh, nice.
And first she fixes little things like torn off ears, and then she fixes them to make their necks less long. Like it's like a way to like how much is it okay to improve yourself before you become a Kardashian.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be a good time. So read that one before the next one. And again, you've been listening to After Dinner Conversations. The website's afterdinnerconversations.com. And all of the stories are there. They're also online on Amazon, Apple, and everywhere else. You can watch this or other podcasts anywhere you hear podcasts or even on YouTube. And thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you again at the next episode. Bye.
Bye.